The students sat in worried silence, waiting for a decision that would affect not just their education, but possibly humanity's future among the stars. The council's deliberation stretched into its second day. Minji tried to focus on her studies, but concentration was impossible. Every time she walked through the institute's corridors, she felt eyes on her. Some gazes were sympathetic, but most were uncertain or hostile. She was in the library when the alarm started. At first, it was just a low hum, barely noticeable. Then the lighting shifted to emergency red. A calm automated voice spoke through the building's communication system in dozens of languages simultaneously. Attention all students and staff. There has been a containment breach in Research Laboratory 7. All personnel are to evacuate immediately to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The library erupted into controlled chaos. Students of all species began moving toward the exits, some calmly, others with visible panic. Minji gathered her things and joined the flow of people heading for the designated safe zone. She found Doyen near the exit. "What's a containment breach?" he asked. "I don't know," Minji admitted, "but it doesn't sound good." They reached the safe zone, a reinforced section of the institute designed to shelter students during emergencies. Hundreds of beings were already there, crowded together in tight spaces. The air hummed with nervous conversation in countless languages. Taejin found them in the crowd. "I heard it was an energy entity experiment. Something went wrong with the containment field." "How bad?" Hyerin asked, appearing from another entrance. "Bad," Taejin said. "The entity is consuming matter to sustain itself. If it's not contained, it could potentially consume the entire station." The automated voice spoke again. "All students in sectors 4, 5, and 6 are advised that evacuation routes are compromised. Security forces are working to establish alternate routes. Please remain calm." "Sectors 4, 5, and 6, Doyen said, pulling up a map on his datapad. "That's where the dormitories are. There are thousands of students in those sectors." The crowd's nervous conversation grew louder. Several students near the walls were showing signs of panic. Then a new announcement came, this one not automated. It was Professor Thalen's voice, strained and urgent. "This is an emergency announcement. The entity has breached secondary containment. It is spreading faster than anticipated. All security and emergency personnel to Research Wing 3 immediately. We need to establish a hard containment perimeter or begin full station evacuation." Full station evacuation. The word sent a ripple of fear through the crowd. Minji looked at Doyun and Hyerin. They were all thinking the same thing. Full evacuation meant loading thousands of students onto ships. It would take hours, possibly days. And if students were trapped in the compromised sectors, Junho appeared, pushing through the crowd. "I've been monitoring security communications. They're overwhelmed. The entity is moving too fast and standard containment protocols aren't working." "Why not?" Hyerin asked. "Because they're designed to be safe," Junho replied. "Galactic community safety standards prioritize preventing harm to all parties, including the entity. But that means their containment methods are slow and methodical." Doyen's eyes widened. "They need a more aggressive approach. But no one here is trained for that," Junho said. "The galactic community hasn't fought a war in 500 years. Most species don't even have military forces anymore." Minji made a decision. "We need to help." "We're not security personnel," Hyerin said, though her tone suggested she was already considering the same thing. "No," Minji agreed. "But we're human, and humans know how to respond to crises." They found a security officer near the safe zone entrance, a crystalline being who was coordinating evacuation efforts. "Excuse me," Minji said. "We want to help with the containment effort." The officer's surface flickered with what might have been confusion or dismissal. "You are students. Please remain in the safe zone. We have training that might be useful," Doyen pressed. "Humans have experience with emergency response and crisis management. All assistance is appreciated, but civilians must remain." An explosion somewhere in the distance cut off the rest of the sentence. The entire station shook. Screams erupted from the crowd behind them. The security officer's surface went dark with what was definitely fear now. "The entity has reached the power distribution center. If it consumes that, we'll lose life support across half the station." "Then let us help," Minji insisted. "What's the worst that could happen? We fail and the station falls anyway? At least let us try." The officer hesitated, then nodded. "Research Wing 3. Report to Commander Salas. Tell them I sent you." The four humans ran through corridors that were rapidly emptying. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. The sound of groaning metal echoed through the walls. They found Commander Salas, a being that resembled a metallic serpent, coordinating with a team of security personnel. The commander looked up as they approached. "Who are you?" "Human students," Junho said quickly. "We're here to help." "I don't need more civilians to protect," Commander Salas said, turning back to the holographic display showing the entity's spread. "You need people who think tactically," Doyen countered. "That thing is spreading because your containment approach is too cautious. You need to force it into a smaller space and trap it there." Commander Salas's metallic eyes fixed on Doyen. "And how do you propose we do that?" "Humans have portable containment technology," Doyen said, "designed for hazardous material response. It's more aggressive than Galactic standard, but it works. I can adapt it to create a hard barrier the entity can't consume." "That could harm the entity," one of the security officers objected. "The entity is consuming the station," Hyeron snapped. "We need to prioritize the thousands of students trapped in the dormitories over preserving something that's actively destroying their homes." Commander Salas considered for a long moment, then nodded. "Do it. What do you need?" Doyen pulled up specifications on his datapad. "I need access to the engineering workshop and these materials." "Give me 20 minutes. You have 15, the commander said. "After that, the entity will be too spread out to contain." Doyen ran. The other humans stayed to help coordinate. "The students in Sector 5, Minji said, studying the holographic map. They're cut off from the evacuation routes. Someone needs to reach them." "The corridors are flooded with radiation," Commander Salas said. "Any rescue attempt would be suicide." "Not for humans," Junho said quietly. "Our radiation tolerance is higher than most species. We can survive brief exposure that would kill others." Minji understood what he was suggesting. Her heart pounded, but she nodded. "I'll go." "Minji," Hyeron started. "Someone has to," Minji said. "And I'm faster than most. I ran track in school. If anyone can get there and back quickly, it's me." Commander Salas looked at her with what might have been respect or horror. "You would risk radiation exposure for students who fear you?" "They're still students," Minji said simply. "They need help." The commander provided her with a basic radiation suit, though everyone knew it would only provide minimal protection. Minji sealed it and headed into the compromised corridor. The radiation indicators on her suit immediately began climbing. She ignored them and ran. Her human endurance served her well. While most species would have tired quickly, Minji maintained her pace, her breathing steady despite the fear coursing through her. The corridor was dark except for emergency lighting. The walls groaned and shifted as the entity consumed structural materials somewhere nearby. She found the trapped students in a dormitory common room, about 40 of them representing a dozen species huddled together in fear. When they saw Minji, several recoiled. "I'm here to help," Minji said, her voice calm despite her racing heart. "Follow me. I know a safe route." "You're human," one of them said, a small furred creature. "Why would you help us?" "Because you need help," Minji replied. "And because humans protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what we do. Now come on, we don't have much time." She led them back through the radiation-flooded corridor. Her suit's alarms were screaming now, warning of dangerous exposure levels. She ignored them. Behind her, the students followed, some moving slowly due to their biology. "Keep moving," she encouraged them. "We're almost there." A section of ceiling collapsed behind them. The entity was getting closer. Minji pushed the students forward, placing herself between them and the danger. They reached the safe zone. Medical personnel immediately took the rescued students. Someone tried to check Minji's radiation exposure, but she waved them off. "I'm fine. Are there others who need help?" Meanwhile, Doyen had finished his device. It was crude and jury-rigged from parts never meant to work together, but it would function. He carried it to Research Wing 3 where the entity was spreading. "This will create an energy barrier," he explained to Commander Salas. "It's going to hurt the entity, force it back. Once it's contained in a smaller space, you can use standard protocols to neutralize it. This technology is not approved for use in the galactic community," a security officer objected. "Then arrest me later," Doyen said. "Right now I'm saving your station." He activated the device. A shimmering barrier sprang into existence, cutting across the corridor. The entity, which had been flowing like liquid shadow. The situation turned out to be a formal hearing. 2 days after the cafeteria incident, Minji received a summons to appear before the Institute Council. Doyen and Hyeron received the same notice. All human students currently at the Institute were required to attend. The council chamber was impressive and intimidating in equal measure. It was a vast circular room with seating arranged in ascending tiers, designed to accommodate the council members from various species. At the center was a platform where those being questioned would stand. Lighting came from bioluminescent panels in the ceiling, casting everything in a soft blue glow. Minji entered with the other humans. There were 8 of them in total at the Institute. Besides Minji, Doyen, and Hyeron, there was Junho, a xenopsychology student, and 4 others from various disciplines. They stood together on the central platform facing the council. Chancellor Vorin presided from the highest tier. Around him sat representatives from 20 major species in the galactic community. Professor Thalen was there too, seated among the academic staff. This hearing will determine whether human students may continue their education at this institute, Chancellor Vorin announced. His crystalline voice echoed through the chamber. Multiple species have raised concerns about human presence. We will hear those concerns, then hear the human response, and finally make a determination. A tall mantis-like being stood. Their voice clicked through the translator. I represent the Chitara Collective. We have reviewed the presentation given by human students. The information revealed demonstrates clear predatory characteristics and a history of extreme violence. We believe humans pose a potential threat to other students. Another representative rose, this one resembling a tree with ambulatory roots. The Elder Forest concur. However, we believe the issue is not current behavior but potential behavior. Humans have shown no aggression in 15 years of galactic contact, but their history suggests they could become aggressive if circumstances changed. A third representative, a being made of shifting sand contained in a transparent form, spoke next. The Silicon Collective questions whether beings with such violent evolutionary history can truly be trusted in academic settings. The psychological pressure of being surrounded by so many species might trigger defensive responses. More representatives spoke. Some were openly hostile, calling humans dangerous. Others were more measured, expressing concern rather than fear. But the overall message was clear. Humans were being judged for what they might do, not what they had done. Finally, Chancellor Vorin gestured to the humans. You may respond to these concerns. Minji stepped forward. She had prepared for this, but standing before the council was still overwhelming. Thank you, Chancellor. I understand the concerns. Humans do have a violent history. We presented that information honestly because we believe in transparency. But history is not destiny. Easy word, the mantis-like representative interrupted. But how can we trust them? Before Minji could answer, Junho stepped forward. He was older than the other human students, with gray in his hair and calm confidence in his manner. May I address the council? Chancellor Vorin nodded. I study xenopsychology, Junho began. My focus is on how different species process fear, aggression, and social bonding. I've spent 3 years here studying dozens of species. Would you like to know what I've learned? He didn't wait for an answer. Every single species in this room has capacity for violence. The Chitara Collective evolved from ambush predators. The Silicon Collective absorbed other silicon-based species during their early history. The Elder Forest released toxic spores when threatened that can kill smaller organisms. The chamber stirred uncomfortably. This is not criticism, Junho continued. It's simply fact. Violence is not unique to humans. What may be unique is how we processed and channeled it. Humans developed philosophy, ethics, and law specifically to control our violent instincts. We built entire civilizations around the idea that violence should be a last resort. But you still fought wars, a reptilian representative said. Major wars with millions of casualties. Yes, Junho admitted. We did, and we remember everyone. Human children study history not to glorify war, but to understand its cost. We have museums dedicated to peace. We have international laws against war crimes. We built a global alliance specifically to prevent future wars. Because you feared destroying yourselves, the sand being said. Exactly, Junho agreed. We recognized our own danger and took steps to contain it. How many species can claim the same level of self-awareness? Professor Thalen stood. I have been researching human psychology extensively. May I share my findings? Chancellor Vorin nodded. Humans have what they call mirror neurons, Professor Thalen explained. These allow them to feel empathy, to imagine themselves in another's situation. Combined with their pack-bonding instincts, this makes humans remarkably protective of those they consider part of their group. He projected data onto the chamber displays. In galactic history, there are 47 recorded instances of human tourists or workers risking personal harm to help aliens in danger. Humans have donated to disaster relief efforts on worlds they've never visited. Human doctors volunteer in galactic medical missions to underserved planets. This proves only that humans can be altruistic, the mantis being said. It does not address their capacity for violence. It addresses their choice, Professor Thalen countered. Humans choose cooperation over conflict. They choose to help rather than harm. Yes, they have the capacity for violence, but they consistently choose not to exercise it. An elderly representative, from a species that resembled floating jellyfish, spoke for the first time. Their voice was slow and thoughtful. I have lived for 600 years. I have seen many species join the galactic community. Some came peacefully, others were convinced to join. None were rejected for their past, only for their present actions. They floated lower, closer to the human students. These humans stand before us honestly. They do not hide their nature. They do not pretend to be something they are not. Is this not what we should value? But what happens when they are threatened? The mantis being pressed. What if pirates attack a human ship? What if there is a conflict with another species? Will humans remain peaceful then? It was a fair question, and silence fell as everyone waited for the answer. Hieron stepped forward. If humans are attacked, we will defend ourselves. I won't lie about that, but defense is not the same as aggression. And how would humans defend themselves? The sand being asked. With the same efficiency you use to hunt prey to extinction? With the same weapons you built to destroy cities? If necessary, Doyen said bluntly. Several council members recoiled. But it won't be necessary, because humans don't want conflict. We want trade. We want cultural exchange. We want to learn and share knowledge. Fighting only destroys those opportunities. Minji added. The question you're really asking is, can humans be trusted? And I think you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, can any species be completely trusted? Or do we all choose to trust each other because cooperation benefits everyone? Philosophy, the mantis being scoffed. You hide behind words. No, Junho said firmly. We face our nature with honesty. Humans are capable of great violence and great compassion. We are capable of destroying and of creating. We contain multitudes, and we choose every single day to be better than our worst instincts. Chancellor Vorin raised a crystalline hand for silence. This hearing has been illuminating. The council will deliberate. You will be informed of our decision. As the humans were escorted from the chamber, Minji felt exhausted. They had made their case, but would it be enough? In the hallway outside, Taijin was waiting. The reptilian student approached cautiously. I listened to the hearing through the public feed. You spoke well. Will it matter? Doyen asked. I do not know, Taijin admitted. Many species are afraid. Fear is a powerful force, we know, Minji said quietly. Humans understand fear very well. That night, the 8 human students gathered in a common room. They sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They had come to the Institute to learn, to represent humanity among the stars, to prove that humans deserve their place in the galactic community. Now that place was in question. If they expel us, one of the other students said quietly, what does that mean for Earth? Will it affect our status in the galactic community? Unknown, Hieron replied. She worked part-time at the Earth Embassy and had some insight into galactic politics. But it won't help. If humans are seen as too dangerous for education, other restrictions might follow. So we're not just representing ourselves, Doyen said. We're representing all of humanity. We always were, Minji replied. That's what made this so difficult. Junho stood and walked to the window. Outside, the Institute's grounds spread out under artificial lighting. Students of hundreds of species moved between buildings, living and learning together. It was beautiful, this place of knowledge and cooperation. Whatever they decide, Junho said, we told the truth. That has to count for something. In an ideal universe, yes, Hieron said. But we don't live in an ideal universe. We live in one where fear often outweighs facts. The cafeteria was always a strange place. Beings who breathed methane sat in sealed bubbles next to beings who ate through photosynthesis. Some students absorbed nutrients directly through their skin, while others required live food. Humans, fortunately, could eat the standard protein synthesizers that most carbon-based species used. Minji picked at her meal without much appetite. 2 days had passed since the presentation, and the atmosphere at the institute had changed noticeably. Where before students would nod politely at humans in the hallways, now many actively avoided them. Conversations would stop when a human entered a room. Some aliens would actually cross to the other side of the corridor. "They're afraid of us now," Doyun said, pushing his food around his plate. "Great job, team." "They asked for the truth," Hiran replied, though she didn't sound convinced. "What were we supposed to do, Lai? Maybe soften it a little?" Doyun suggested. "Did we really need to show the nuclear weapons part?" Before Minji could respond, someone approached their table. She looked up to see a reptilian student standing there awkwardly. His scales were a mottled green and brown, and his amber eyes were fixed on Minji with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "May I sit?" he asked. The 3 humans exchanged glances. "Sure," Minji said. The reptilian student sat carefully, as if worried about making sudden movements. "My name is Taejin. I am from Soros Prime. I wanted to ask you some questions about your presentation." "Are you going to file a complaint too?" Doyun asked, his tone bitter. Taejin's head tilted in confusion. "Complaint? No, I found your presentation fascinating. Terrifying, but fascinating." "There have been complaints?" Minji asked. "You didn't know?" Taejin looked surprised. "Several species representatives have filed formal protests with the Institute administration. They claim your presentation was deliberately threatening. Some are calling for restrictions on human students." Hiran's expression darkened. "Restrictions? What kind of restrictions?" "I do not know the details," Taejin admitted. "But I heard the Chancellor is reviewing the matter." He paused. "That is not why I came to talk to you, though. I wanted to understand something. You said humans are dangerous, but you also said you are peaceful now. How can both things be true?" Minji considered the question. "Do you have predators on Soros Prime?" "We did," Taejin replied. "The Saurus were prey species originally. We evolved intelligence to escape predators. Eventually, we developed technology and eliminated the predator species on our world." "How did you eliminate them?" Minji asked. "We built walls around our cities. We used weapons to drive them back. Eventually, we—" Taejin paused, realization dawning in his eyes. "We hunted them to extinction." "Oh. Every intelligent species has violence in its past," Hiran said gently. "Humans are just more recent and more honest about it." Taejin sat back, his tail curling thoughtfully. "But the scale of human violence seems greater. The wars you showed, the weapons you created, the species you eliminated, it is beyond what most species have experienced." "Earth is a difficult planet," Minji explained. "It has extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, diseases, natural disasters. Humans evolved to survive all of that. We developed traits that helped us survive, and those same traits made us dangerous." "But you learned to control it," Taejin said. "You have not destroyed yourselves." "We came close," Doyun admitted. "Several times. But yes, we learned. We built laws, societies, cultures that channel our aggressive instincts into other things. Sports, competition, exploration. We still have the instincts, but we control them." Meanwhile, in another part of the institute, Professor Thalen was having a very different conversation. He sat in his office across from Chancellor Voren, the institute's administrator. The Chancellor was a crystalline being whose body refracted light into rainbow patterns when he moved. "The complaints are serious, Thalen," Chancellor Voren said. His voice resonated from deep within his crystalline structure. 7 different species representatives have filed formal protests. They claim the human students deliberately intimidated other students. Professor Thalen's antennae twitched in agitation. "The humans presented factual information about their species' evolution. I was present for the entire presentation. At no point did they threaten anyone." "The information itself is being considered threatening," the Chancellor replied. "Several students now fear being in close proximity to humans. Some parents are demanding their children be transferred to classes without human students." "That is ridiculous," Professor Thalen said firmly. "Humans have been part of the galactic community for 15 years. They have never shown aggression toward any species." "They've never been challenged," Chancellor Voren countered. "We don't know how they would respond to a genuine threat." Professor Thalen pulled up data on his display. I have been researching humans extensively since that presentation. The information they provided was accurate, but it was also incomplete. Incomplete? You mean they understated their capacity for violence? No, Professor Thalen said. They understated their capacity for cooperation. Look at this. He projected human history onto the wall display. Humans fight wars, yes, but they also form alliances. They create art, music, literature. They build hospitals and schools. They develop medicine and share it with others. They explore space not just for resources, but for knowledge. Many species do these things, the Chancellor said, but humans do them despite their nature, not because of it, Professor Thalen argued. A species that evolved to be persistence hunters, that learned to kill efficiently, that survived by being relentless. That same species chose to become explorers and scientists and artists. That is remarkable. The Chancellor was silent for a moment, light dancing across his surface as he thought. You're saying the humans represent both danger and potential? I'm saying they represent what all species should aspire to, Professor Thalen replied. The ability to recognize one's own nature and choose to be better than it. Back in the cafeteria, more students had gathered around the human table. Word had spread that Tajin was talking to them, and curiosity was overcoming fear for some, a floating gas being pulsed with colors as they communicated through their translator. Is it true that humans still have wars? Not like the old ones, Hiran answered. We have conflicts, disagreements, but we haven't had a major war in over 60 years. We've learned that cooperation benefits everyone more than conflict. But you could, a small furred creature asked nervously. If you wanted to, you could fight wars again? Physically capable? Doyen said. Yes, but why would we? We're part of the galactic community now. We have trade, culture exchange, scientific cooperation. War would ruin all of that. Unless someone threatened you, Tajin said thoughtfully. Then what would humans do? The question hung in the air. Minji thought carefully before answering. Humans protect what's theirs. Our families, our homes, our allies. If something threatened those things, yes, we would fight, but we'd try every other option first. Because you've learned that violence should be a last resort? The gas being asked. Because we've seen what violence costs, Minji replied quietly. Every human child learns about our wars, our mistakes, the millions who died. We remember. We make sure we never forget, so we never repeat those mistakes. A new voice interrupted. How noble. How convenient. Everyone turned to see a large insectoid student approaching. Their carapace was deep blue, and their multifaceted eyes gleamed with hostility. You speak of peace while presenting yourself as killers. You frighten students and then claim you're harmless. Which is it, humans? Are you predators or prey? Minji stood slowly, aware that many eyes were now on their table. We're neither. We're survivors who learned to be citizens. Survivors who drove hundreds of species to extinction. The insectoid shot back. Survivors who built weapons that could destroy worlds. You wear a civilized face, but underneath you're still killers. We're all killers underneath, Hiran said, her voice calm but firm. Every species that eats meat has killed. Every species that eliminated a competitor or predator has killed. The difference is that humans are honest about it. The difference, the insectoid hissed, is that humans are good at it. Too good. You don't belong here among civilized species. Doyen was standing now too, his body language tense. Minji put a hand on his arm, keeping him calm. We belong where the galactic community says we belong, Minji said quietly. If they decide that's not here, we'll accept that decision. But we won't apologize for being what evolution made us. The insectoid looked like they wanted to say more, but a professor entered the cafeteria at that moment, calling for attention. All students to your quarters immediately. There is a situation developing. Institute security protocols are being activated. Confusion rippled through the cafeteria. Students began moving toward the exits, talking amongst themselves in worried tones. Tajin looked at Minji. What kind of situation? I don't know, Minji replied, gathering her things. But I guess we're about to find out. As they left the cafeteria, none of them could know that the situation developing would force the entire galactic community to confront the question of human nature in the most direct way possible. Minji's quarters were small but comfortable. The Galactic Institute provided housing for all students, designed to accommodate the basic needs of hundreds of different species. For humans, this meant a simple room with a bed, a desk, and a bathroom. Right now, that desk was covered with data pads, holographic projectors, and scattered notes. Doyen sat cross-legged on the floor, scrolling through images on his personal device. "We need to be careful about this," he said. "If we make humans look too dangerous, it could affect Earth's standing in the galactic community." Hiren nodded from her position by the window. "But if we downplay it too much, we look like we're lying. Professor Thalen is already suspicious. He's been digging through the archives." "How do you know?" Minji asked. "I talked to his teaching assistant. The professor spent 4 hours yesterday reviewing Earth's first contact reports." Hiren smiled slightly. Apparently, there were some details left out of the public records. Minji wasn't surprised. When humanity made first contact 15 years ago, there had been extensive debates about how much to reveal. Earth's violent history wasn't exactly a secret, but it hadn't been advertised either. The galactic community valued peace above all else. Humans had been accepted based on a promise of cooperation and non-aggression. "So what do we show them?" Doyen asked. "The truth could scare them, but lies will be discovered." "We show them the truth," Minji said firmly. "Just the truth. Facts, biology, history. We let them draw their own conclusions." The next morning, word had spread throughout the institute. When Minji arrived at the lecture hall, it was packed beyond capacity. Students from other courses crowded the doorways. Some had brought recording devices. The air hummed with dozens of different forms of excited communication. Professor Thalen waited at the front, his forearms folded. When he saw Minji, his antennae twitched in what might have been anticipation or concern. "Miss Minji," he said as she approached, "it seems your presentation has generated significant interest." "I see that, Professor." Minji set up her equipment while Doyun and Hiren took positions near the holographic projectors. "I hope that's acceptable." "Science thrives on curiosity," the professor replied. "Please proceed." Minji took a breath and began. "I want to start with human biology, because that's where most species misunderstand us." A hologram of a human body appeared, slowly rotating. It looked unimpressive next to the diverse forms in the audience. "No scales, no shells, no natural weapons. Humans evolved as persistence hunters," Minji explained. "We can't run fast compared to prey animals. A human's top speed is about 45 kilometers per hour, and only for short distances, but we can maintain a jogging pace for hours. Days even if we're trained and determined." She showed footage from Earth recorded specifically for this presentation, a human runner in a marathon still moving after 4 hours. Another video showed traditional persistence hunting, where humans tracked an antelope until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. "No other Earth predator can do this," Minji continued. "We sweat to cool ourselves. We have tendons that store energy. Our respiratory system is efficient. We can run prey to death, literally." A crystalline student spoke up, their voice chiming like bells. "But surely faster predators would catch the prey first?" "They would," Minji agreed. "In a short chase. But humans hunt differently. We track. We plan, we wait, and we never ever stop." She changed the hologram to show human anatomy in detail. "Humans are also the best throwers in Earth's history. Our shoulder joints, our hand-eye coordination, our brain's ability to calculate trajectory. We can hit targets with thrown objects more accurately than any other species on our planet." Doyen stepped forward. "Which brings us to tools. Humans have been making tools for over 3 million years." The hologram shifted to show the progression of human technology. Stone hand axes, spears, bow and arrows. The alien students watched with growing attention. "Fire," Doyen said, showing humans cooking food. "We mastered fire over 1 million years ago. This let us eat more efficiently, develop larger brains, and survive in climates that would kill most Earth life." He continued through the timeline. Bronze Age weapons, iron forging, medieval warfare, the Industrial Revolution. The students were silent now, watching the rapid progression. When the hologram showed gunpowder weapons, several aliens shifted uncomfortably. When it reached nuclear weapons, the room became absolutely still. "Humans split the atom," Doyun said quietly. "We created weapons that could destroy cities, countries, potentially our entire planet." Professor Thalen's mandibles clicked nervously. "But you didn't destroy yourselves." "No," Doyun agreed. "We came close several times, but we pulled back. We learned control." Hiren took over the presentation. "Now I'll discuss human social structures. Humans are pack hunters by evolution. We form groups, families, tribes, nations. We communicate with complex language. But more than that, we communicate abstract ideas." She showed images of human art, music, mathematics, and philosophy. Humans don't just hunt and survive. We think about hunting and survival. We plan, we strategize. We learn from mistakes and adapt. A video began playing. It showed a human military operation, carefully edited to remove the most graphic violence but clearly showing tactical coordination. Squads moving in formation. Flanking maneuvers. Strategic planning. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire history, Hiron said. Her voice was level, matter-of-fact. Against prey, against predators, and against each other. We have studied warfare as a science. We have refined violence into an art form. The alien students were no longer laughing. Many looked deeply uncomfortable. A gelatinous being in the front row was literally quivering. Professor Thalen stood. Miss Hiron, this is quite disturbing. Are you trying to frighten your classmates? No, Professor, Hiron replied. I'm explaining how humans became the dominant species on Earth. You asked how we outcompeted perfect predators. This is how. Minji stepped forward again. Professor, you showed us a saber-toothed cat and called it the deadliest species. But here's the thing about Earth's apex predators. The hologram changed to show extinction timelines, species after species, disappearing from Earth's history. Humans have caused over 300 species extinctions that we know of, Minji said. Not through hunting them all, though we did hunt some. Mostly we just existed. We expanded. We changed the environment. We competed for resources. And we won every single time. She pulled up more data. When humans arrived in North America, 70% of large mammal species went extinct within a few thousand years. When we reached Australia, similar patterns. Madagascar, New Zealand, countless islands. Wherever humans spread, megafauna disappeared. Are you saying humans deliberately destroyed these species? A reptilian student asked, their voice sharp. Sometimes deliberately, often accidentally, Minji answered. That's what makes humans dangerous. We don't have to try to be deadly. It's just what we are. Professor Thalen was reviewing data on his pad rapidly. His antennae were vibrating. This is concerning. The galactic community accepted humans as a peaceful species. But this history suggests otherwise. We are peaceful, Hiron interjected. Now, we learned. But the capability for violence never went away. It's still there, in every human, buried under culture and society and law. Minji added, we didn't outcompete predators by being stronger or faster. We did it by being smarter, more adaptable, and absolutely relentless. A saber-toothed cat was a perfect killing machine. But humans were perfect survivors. And when survival means removing threats, humans remove threats. The lecture hall was silent. You could hear the environmental systems humming. Finally, a small, furred creature near the back spoke up, their voice timid. Are we threats to you? Minji looked at the small being with gentle eyes. No, your friends, classmates, colleagues. Humans don't see allies as threats. But you could? The creature pressed. Minji chose her words carefully. Any species can be dangerous under the right circumstances. Humans just have more practice at it than most. Professor Thalen deactivated the holographic display. This has been illuminating and troubling. I must consider this information carefully. He looked at Minji with what might have been newfound respect or possibly fear. Class dismissed. As students filed out, many gave the three humans a wide berth. The looks of amusement were gone, replaced by uncertainty and wariness. Doyun glanced at Minji. That went well, he said dryly. Did it? Minji wondered, watching their classmates leave. Or did we just make things much worse? The lecture hall was enormous, built to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Crystalline creatures sat beside floating gas-based life forms. Reptilian students took notes with their tails, while insectoid species clicked their mandibles in thought. In the back row, almost invisible among the diverse crowd, sat three humans. Minji adjusted her datapad and tried to focus on Professor Thalen's lecture. The four-armed insectoid professor was one of the most respected xenobiologists in the galaxy. His chittering voice was translated into dozens of languages simultaneously through the universal communication system. Today we conclude our study of extinct apex predators, Professor Thalen announced. His compound eyes gleamed under the artificial lights as he manipulated the holographic display. A massive creature appeared floating in the center of the room. It had 6 legs, crystalline armor, and razor-sharp appendages that made several students gasp. The Ralthan Deathworm, the professor continued. It ruled the desert planets of Sector 7 for 3 million years. standing 12 meters tall, capable of detecting vibrations from 5 kilometers away, and possessing digestive acids strong enough to dissolve titanium alloys. He paused for effect. Extinct for 1 million years after its planet's atmosphere changed. Minji glanced at Doyen, who sat 2 seats away. Her fellow human was sketching something in his notebook, probably another engineering design. On her other side, several seats down, Hieron was watching the presentation with diplomatic interest. The 3 of them were the only humans in the entire Galactic Institute of Xenobiology. Professor Thalen cycled through more holograms. Each creature was more terrifying than the last. The sky razors of the methane clouds had wings spanning 50 meters and could hunt in 3 dimensions. The void crawlers could survive in space itself, attaching to ships and tearing through hulls. But these, fascinating as they are, were not the deadliest, Professor Thalen said. His tone became almost reverent. No, the deadliest species in galactic history came from a world we lost contact with 2 million years ago. A new hologram appeared. Minji's breath caught in her throat. The creature had long, curved teeth protruding from its upper jaw. Its muscular body was built for power and speed. Its eyes held an intelligent, predatory gleam. Planet X793, Professor Thalen said. A world that was surveyed during the early expansion but marked as pre-sentient. When we returned to the coordinates 50,000 years ago, we found the planet had shifted its orbit slightly. We could not relocate it with certainty. This creature, captured in our ancestral databanks, represents the apex of predatory evolution. Several students leaned forward. A gelatinous being near the front rippled with what might have been fear. Note the dental structure, the professor continued. Those fangs could pierce the hide of creatures 3 times its size. The muscular build allowed for explosive speed. Thermal imaging from the ancient surveys suggested it hunted in family groups, showing social intelligence. It was, without question, the most perfectly designed killer ever documented. Minji's hand started to rise. She hesitated, then forced it higher. Professor Thalen noticed. His antennae twitched in surprise. Yes, the human student in the back? The room fell silent. Many species turned to look at Minji. Humans were still new to the galactic community. First contact had happened only 15 years ago, and humans remained rare at academic institutions. Minji stood. Her voice was steady. Professor, that planet isn't lost. It's called Earth, sir. The silence deepened. Professor Thalen's mandibles clicked together rapidly, a sign of confusion in his species. I beg your pardon? Planet X793 is Earth, Minji repeated. That's my homeworld, and those creatures aren't the deadliest species from there. A murmur ran through the classroom. Professor Thalen manipulated his datapad rapidly, pulling up information. His compound eyes scanned the data, then fixed on Minji. The records indicate Planet X793 was surveyed 2 million years ago and contained only pre-sentient life. Large mammals, primitive hunters, but no civilization. That's correct, Minji said. Humans didn't exist yet. We evolved after your survey. This caused an eruption of noise. Students chattered in dozens of languages. The universal translator struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations. Professor Thalen raised 2 of his forearms, calling for silence. You are saying humans evolved in 2 million years? That's extremely rapid by galactic standards. Yes, sir, Minji replied. The creature you're showing is called a saber-toothed cat. Specifically a smilodon. They went extinct about 10,000 years ago. Extinct? A reptilian student near the front spoke up. What killed such a perfect predator? Minji paused. Climate change, mostly. And competition for resources. Competition from what? The reptilian student pressed. From humans, among other things. Professor Thalen's antennae were quivering now. Miss Minji, are you suggesting that humans outcompeted this creature? Your species appears, forgive me, quite fragile compared to this predator. Minji connected her datapad to the room's holographic system. May I, Professor? He gestured for her to proceed. Images from Earth began to appear. Cave bears, massive and terrifying. Dire wolves with crushing jaws. Woolly mammoths towering over the landscape. Short-faced bears that stood 4 meters tall. Terror birds with beaks that could crack skulls. Earth had many apex predators, Minji said. The saber-toothed cat was just one of them. During the Pleistocene epoch, Earth was filled with megafauna. Giant predators everywhere. A floating gas being pulsed with curiosity. What happened to them all? Most went extinct, Minji said simply. Climate change was a factor, but humans were also a factor. Professor Thalen was studying his datapad intensely. The galactic records state that humans are a peaceful species. Your physiology suggests prey characteristics, not predator ones. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. You are not even particularly large. Doyen snorted from his seat. Several students looked at him. He raised his hand. Sorry, Professor, but that's a very surface-level analysis. Please explain, Professor Thalen said. His tone suggested he was humoring the young humans, but his scientific curiosity was clearly engaged. Minji looked at her fellow humans, then back at the professor. You're right that those aren't the deadliest species from Earth. The deadliest species from Earth is still alive. She changed the hologram. A human being appeared, standing upright, empty-handed, vulnerable-looking. The classroom erupted into laughter. Even Professor Thalen's mandibles twitched in what his species considered amusement. My dear student, he said gently, humans are many things, but you are not apex predators. Your own presentation shows you were surrounded by creatures much more capable of violence. We're surrounded, yes, Minji said quietly. Past tense, the laughter began to fade. Something in her tone made the other students pause. Professor, Minji continued, may I give a full presentation next class? I can explain exactly how humans became the dominant species on Earth. How we survived when those perfect predators didn't. Professor Thalen considered this. Around the room, students were chattering with interest. The professor was a scientist at heart, and this mystery intrigued him. A species evolving from prey to dominance in such a short time. It deserved study. Very well, he said. Next session you may present. I look forward to this. Educational experience. Minji sat down. Her heart was pounding. Beside her, several seats away, Hyeron caught her eye and nodded with approval. Doyen was grinning. As the class ended and students filed out, many cast curious glances at the three humans. Some looked amused. Others looked skeptical. None of them looked afraid. Not yet.